Hey guys, Chris here from christhefreelancer.com, and in today's video I'm sharing my experience as a digital nomad here in Belgrade, Serbia. So with the last video on Budapest, I felt like it was a little bit rushed. It ended up only being a 3 to 4 minute video, and I left out things such as groceries and phone plans and certain transport options. This time I'm taking my time with doing Belgrade. I've been here a month in the Serbian capital. So I'm sitting down with you today to talk about everything I've learned over the last month and share with you my usual criteria of a digital nomad destination that I like to know. Things like cost of living, whether the internet's strong, whether there's places to work from, cafes and co-working, lifestyle, visas, all that good stuff. So let's start with my first impressions of Belgrade. I'm in my first days here in Belgrade, and what I'm noticing more than anything is that there's graffiti absolutely everywhere. I don't know whether it's that the Serbian people are just more rebellious or the city has a hard time cleaning it up, but yeah, it's pretty prevalent. So my first impressions when coming from Sombor in northern Serbia down to Belgrade, it honestly looked a little bit ghetto looking from the start. I noticed a lot of graffiti, and as a city it's not as clean and polished as, say, Budapest was, but as you'll find out throughout this video, I really do like Belgrade, so keep listening. That is not where the story ends. Another impression I have about Serbia in general and Belgrade is this is probably the country that I've been to that's the most liberal about smoking. There doesn't seem to be any laws about advertising of smoking, and you can go to cafes and smoke, and a lot of them indoors and outdoors, and buy cigarettes over the counter at a supermarket. It's very different for me coming from somewhere like Australia, and even across all my travels, I haven't seen a place so liberal about smoking. So I don't really condone smoking, but if you're into that, that might be something you like about Serbia. So cost of living, rent, we just went through Airbnb because we have no experience with renting in Serbia. I'm sitting right here in our Airbnb that we booked out for a month through obviously Airbnb.com, and we paid 1,000 Australian dollars all up for our stay, which is pretty good considering this apartment, but I've heard that if you lease or rent long term that this should be a lot less. For the convenience of using Airbnb and all of those other benefits, we're happy to pay the 1,000 AUD that we did, but if you wanted to stay long term in Serbia, the rents would be much cheaper, I'm sure. So for food and drink in Serbia, there's obviously a huge range. You can get a big Serbian burger from a local fast food chain for just a few US dollars, or you can go big and go to a nice Japanese restaurant that we did on the top of a hotel, and we paid 6,700 dinner for that dinner. That was probably the most expensive meal we had in Belgrade, but most of the time we've been cooking at home, and groceries are generally cheap. I'm going to put some numbers up on your screen now that we've experienced at both the supermarket and the local market. We didn't really see much difference between the local market and the supermarket, so we ended up just going across the road all the time to get our groceries. If you want to eat out in Belgrade, of course, it can be quite cheap as well. The cheapest meal I had, I think, was a large gyros with some fries for 320 dinner. But I've been to this Serbian diner just down the road. Those meals were about $5 US. There's fast food restaurants such as Burrito Madre and KFC, McDonald's. Those are about it when it comes to big fast food chains. Denise and I also like to order in while we were in Belgrade. There's a service called Don C. I'll put the link on the screen, but basically that's a website where you can order delivery in Belgrade, and oftentimes when we didn't want to go outside, we just order in, and the delivery fees are really inexpensive or free if you order a certain amount, so you don't have to feel guilty about ordering in if you are feeling lazy and just want to stay in. As for coffees, I like to drink coffee every now and then, like a lot of nomads. So Serbia and Belgrade is a really inexpensive place to drink cappuccinos. My local place down the road, I was just paying 125 dinar per cappuccino. That's probably on the lower range of coffees. You can pay up to double that at a nicer cafe, but it's never going to set you back probably more than $5. Otherwise, you're probably getting ripped off. For phone plans, we got our phone plans when we just arrived in Serbia. It was very cheap. We went with a service called Telenor, and it's basically 100 dinar per gig. So we spent 1,000 dinar and got like 10 gigs of data. And yeah, for that price, you don't really have to worry about data. And hell, if you don't find Wi-Fi when you're at a cafe or wherever you need to use the internet, data can be a good option as well. We found it to be quite reliable, and Telenor apparently have a wide service covering. So Telenor is the company we went with, and yeah, really inexpensive, really good quality. For getting around, public transport isn't big in Belgrade. There was supposed to be a metro system, I think, and they've been talking about it for a long time, and I think that it's just budget reasons they haven't been able to build one. But there's all these underground tunnels that you would think that there'd be a metro station under, but no, it's just crossing between streets. There are trams and there are buses. We did take one tram, but a cheap option for getting around that's super convenient is taking a taxi. And we'd heard stories about taxi drivers kind of ripping off tourists, so we decided to go with an app called Taxify, which we discovered in Budapest, but it's really big in Belgrade as well. And it's basically just like Uber, but for booking taxis. And you either pay in cash or pay with the app. And yeah, Denise has been using it all the time to go to the mall or, just go anywhere in the city. You can do it easily with Taxify. Otherwise, if you just want to walk around, I'm that kind of person. I love being able to just walk everywhere. Belgrade's been great for that. We've been staying somewhere pretty central here near the Parliament building, and it's just like a 10-minute walk up to the main street, or like 10-minute walk for me to go to the gym, and there's plenty of food and supermarkets around here. If you stay in Old Belgrade, it's a pretty compact city, so it's not too hard to get around in. But if you do like cycling, it's very different to Sombor, for example. You might have seen we were riding bikes in the north of Serbia. Belgrade is not a very bicycle-friendly place. So walking is great, taxis are great, and the occasional public transport is your best ways of getting around. As for drinking and smoking, like I said, smoking is it's completely liberal here. For drinking, I've heard that Belgrade has a crazy nightlife scene. I'm not much of a nightlife guy myself, unfortunately, so I didn't go to a bar or nightclub while I was here. But I did have the occasional beer and just hang out at home. For that, it's crazy cheap, especially for somebody like me from Australia. We have some crazy alcohol prices, but in Serbia-wide in Belgrade, you can get beer for really cheap. Like you can just grab a beer for less than $1 here. It's crazy if you just want to grab a beer and go home and have a drink. The current exchange rate is about 110 dinar to a US dollar. So pretty much all of these beers, apart from that one, are under a US dollar each. You got your bottles down here. It's about 50 cents for a bottle of beer there. And if you like buying in bulk, you've got more than a litre for just under $2 2 litres of beer. For gyms and fitness, I don't know if you saw my video on Facebook of me finding a gym in Belgrade, but Google Maps wasn't too reliable for finding a gym in Belgrade, but I did find one called I Am Republic, and it was a really good gym. I think I paid $2,700 dinner, I think, and I'm not sure what it is per day, but that was a fully equipped gym. I was able to do all the necessary steps of my workout there, and it was a really good gym. Alright, so let's talk about cafes and co-working. In Belgrade, it's not hard to find a co-working space at all. I checked out 3 different spaces, Smart Office, InCentar, and Impact Hub. So Smart Office is the first co-working space in Belgrade. It's really in the center of the city near Knez Mahalia, which is the main street. InCentar is another one that's pretty close to it, but that one is a little bit smaller, and when I went to talk to them, they said they only have 1 desk left. So I think it's more of a place for permanent people, not very transient kind of digital nomads, as you probably would expect from a big city. Impact Hub has different packages for how many hours you want to get, but to get signed up, you need to sign up for a minimum 3 months on their Connect package. So I was only staying for a month, so if I was going to work out at any of them, I'd probably choose Impact Hub, but that whole having to sign up for 3 months, and it wasn't too inexpensive with the hours, so I decided just to work from home. The internet was good here, and I'm comfortable, so just working from home was fine for me. In terms of cafes, I didn't go to too many, as I said, been working from home, but I checked out 2 recommendations I got from friends. First recommendation was from my friend Serge. I went to a place called 19 Grams. The internet just kept cutting out, but it was okay, I guess. I didn't think it was that great, but it's one of Serge's favorite spots to work in Belgrade when he comes here. And the other spot I went to, Aviator Coffee Explorer, was recommended by Maria from Nomad Capitalist, and it's had surprisingly fast and good internet, reliable, and she works out of there most of the week, so she can attest that it's a good space to work out of. Apart from that, there doesn't seem to be many other cafes that are really cater to digital nomads, but from my conversations with Maria and Serge, it seems like there are a lot of cafes that you can work from in Belgrade, and it's not too unusual to go to a cafe with good seating and just do some work on your computer. Alright, let's talk about lifestyle and things to do. Belgrade doesn't have that many sites to see. Denise and I saw St. Sava Temple, which is a large Orthodox church that is pretty famous, and while we were there they were reconstructing or doing some renovations on the inside, but you can go down to the crypt and see some incredible artwork down there. There's also the Belgrade Fortress and the park that surrounds it. That was interesting. We took a cheap little land train around, sort of carriage, I don't know what you'd call it, around the park, and that was a good way to see the fortress and the surrounding park and get some views along the river. Those are probably 2 of the biggest sites that you would want to see kind of as a tourist in Belgrade, but the 2 cool areas that we like to check out and hang out in Belgrade, of course, is Knez Mahalia, which is, I'm probably saying the name wrong. Basically, it's this large walking street in the center of Belgrade, and it has different streets which intersect with it, and it's just a walking mall. So there's shopping there, there's H&M, there's Zara, and you can buy ice cream and popcorn there, and just hang out, go shopping. There's also a place called Skadalia. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that one correctly either, but that's the bohemian area of Belgrade, and you can it's basically a cobblestone walking street, and it was a bit dead when we went there during the day, but at night it comes alive, people having dinner and musicians, and interesting kind of bohemian sort of tourist spot, especially on the weekends. Overall with Belgrade, from my personal standpoint, there's nothing there's nothing bad about Belgrade and there's nothing too amazing about it. But what I like about Serbia in general is that the Serbian people and the culture, the laid-back culture, is very nice to be around, at least for me. I've had really good experience with the Serbian people. They've been very helpful, very kind, and very relaxed kind of people. And that, of course, comes across in their cafe culture. One of the things that I enjoyed doing here in Belgrade was just chilling out of the cafe and grabbing a coffee and just taking in the chill vibes of Belgrade. So I said I'd talk a little bit about the visa situation in Serbia, and one of the things that attracted us to Belgrade was that Belgrade and Serbia are outside the Schengen zone. And for those of you who don't know what the Schengen zone is, it's basically a collection of European countries that share the same visa rules. And basically, if you travel to the Schengen zone, it's like spending time in the one country, and you only get 90 days out of 180 in that zone as an Australian, as an American, and a lot of other nationalities. If you're an EU citizen, you have no worries whatsoever. But for us, we wanted to spend longer in Europe than 90 days. So Serbia was a good option for us. And they have the same rule as well, 90 days out of 180 for Australians and Americans and those sort of countries, but it's just Serbia. So you can spend 90 days in Serbia theoretically, and 90 days in the Schengen zone, and then 90 days in another Eastern European country. It's not counted towards your Schengen time. So overall, I hope I haven't forgotten anything. If I have, please let me know in the comments below, and feel free to ask me any questions about Belgrade and Serbia that you may have. I just wanted to mention a few other things about Serbia if you're interested in coming to Serbia. I visited Sombor just before we came to Belgrade, and Sombor is a great up-and-coming northern Serbian town, which we recommend. And if you want to stay in Sombor, there's a co-working space there called Fabrika, opened by our friend Serge, that I highly recommend. Also, I checked out a space called Mokran House on the other side of northern Serbia, and this is basically a co-living, co-working space. It's basically this compound set up for digital nomads to create the ideal productivity environment, and you get 3 meals a day there, and everything's just taken care of for you so that you can work. There's a co-working space there, there's living quarters, and you can have a productive week, month, or however long you want to stay at Mokran. So those are 2 other recommendations I have in Serbia. As for Belgrade, honestly, we're a bit sad to leave because we have been really comfortable here in Belgrade. The city is incredible value for money. I mean, it's not ridiculously cheap like some places in Southeast Asia like Chiang Mai, but to live in the middle of the city and to be able to walk everywhere and eat out, and the internet is great here. I think it's an underrated city, and I'm sure that you'll see a flock of nomads come here as the movement grows. So as always, I'll be covering in greater detail what I've talked about today in this video in the blog post. Be sure to check out christhefreelancer.com and check out the destination report for Belgrade, and of course the other destinations I've reviewed on my blog. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below, and I will get back to you on that. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and click like on this video if you enjoyed this video. I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks so much for watching.